Welcome back today, guys. Today we're going to be getting into chapter 20. Okay, so you kind of looked at this a little bit yesterday. You looked at this through your reading questions. Today we're going to get into it just a little bit more. Okay, so we're looking at one standard today. All right, 8.61. We're going to describe the election of 1860 and its candidates, John Bell, Stephen Douglas, Abraham Lincoln, and John Breckinridge, and analyze how the campaigns reflected sectional turmoil in the country. Okay, so we have a few essential questions that we're trying to answer. What was the election of 1860 like? Who were the candidates in the election of 1860? What was each candidate's position on slavery in the election of 1860? And how did the campaigns in the election of 1860 reflect sectional turmoil in the country? Okay, so we should be able to answer these four questions by the end of this. All right, now, before we get started with the election of 1860, I do want to go over a couple terms for the Civil War that we will use, that I will use throughout this, these next few chapters, just so we can kind of make sense of this. Okay, for the United States of America, all right, you may see it labeled as the USA, of course, all right, or we will talk about it being the North or the Union. Okay, so if I mention any three of those, USA, the North, the Union, I am referring to the United States of America. Now, on the other hand, we have the new country, the Confederate States of America. All right, and they have a couple more terms that they kind of use. So the abbreviation that you'll see will be the CSA, Confederate States of America. You'll also refer to them as the South or the Confederacy, okay, or Confederates, all right? And they'll also be called rebels because, of course, they are rebelling against the United States. Okay, so I just want you to remember a couple of these terms for the rest of chapter 20 and 21. Okay, all right, so diving into the election of 1860. Differences over the issue of slavery had a profound effect on the election of 1860. The North and South were at odds over slavery and its place in new territories. Okay, we've seen this kind of leading up to this. The Missouri Compromise, the Compromise of 1850, the Kansas-Nebraska Act. All right, so the list of candidates also represented the glaring sectional turmoil in the country. All right, so there are four challengers. Okay, first we're going to look at Abraham Lincoln. Okay, so Abraham Lincoln was the Republican Party nominee. Okay, the Republican Party was pretty new at this time. He is from Illinois. He vowed to stop the spread of slavery. So Abraham Lincoln did not want slavery to spread into the West. But he did believe that slavery should be kept in the states where it already existed. Okay, so this is kind of where we get a little fuzzy on history, is that Abraham Lincoln wanted to get rid of slavery. He didn't want to get rid of slavery. He wanted to stop the spread of it, okay, and that the southern states could keep slavery, all right? So most southern states didn't even include Lincoln on the ballot. Okay, so that is one of our first challengers, is Lincoln. Another guy we've talked about, Stephen Douglas, is the second challenger. Okay, so we of course talked about him and Lincoln in the Lincoln-Douglas debates in Illinois. Now Douglas is one of the Democratic Party nominees. Okay, yes, one of the Democratic Party nominees. He is also from Illinois. So we have two men from the North. Okay, Lincoln and Douglas are both from Illinois. He was pro-slavery, but Southern Democrats didn't like his devotion to popular sovereignty. Okay, so remember, popular sovereignty gives people a choice. So it's still kind of a 50-50 coin flip. All right, Southern Democrats want to be reassured. All right. Northern Democrats, though, believed that Douglas could beat the Republicans. Okay, so he is our second challenger. The third is John Breckinridge. All right, now this is the second Democratic Party nominee. So they have a Northern Democrat and a Southern Democrat in the election of 1860, something we don't see today. Now, Breckinridge is from Kentucky. Okay, so he is from the South. He is from a slaveholding state. And he expressed support for slavery in the states and the territories. Okay, so this is more where Southern Democrats lean toward, is Breckinridge, not Douglas. All right. And the fourth one is John Bell. He is from the Constitutional Union Party. All right. He is from Tennessee. All right. And what John Bell says is that he is going to stay neutral on the issue of slavery and other things. So what his platform basically is the Constitution. Okay, so this party simply points to the Constitution as their platform. They would support nothing unless it was stated in the Constitution. Okay, so this is going to be kind of try to be your middle ground here, okay, between the Republicans and the Democrats, Northern and Southern. The Constitutional Union is going to try to come in the middle. Okay, so the results here, all right, in the end, there was further division between the North and the South. All right, so we see that the North was split between Douglas and Lincoln. Vote-wise, not necessarily in the Electoral College. As you can see here, Lincoln takes a lot of red states here in the North, okay? Even wins his home state. And the South was split between Bell and Breckinridge. Bell is in the orange, takes Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia. Breckinridge takes the other southern states, southern slaveholding states here, okay? So with the Democratic Party being split, Abraham Lincoln won the election of 1860. And this is where the ball gets rolling. Okay, South Carolina secedes from the Union on December 20th of 1860. Okay, so South Carolina breaks away. They call themselves their own country now, basically. All right, and this creates a domino effect. Okay, so South Carolina seceded 3 months before Lincoln was sworn in as president. Okay, so South Carolina secedes in December of 1860. Lincoln is not inaugurated until March. That, of course, has since been changed to January. But Lincoln doesn't get in until March. So Lincoln watches 7 states secede between his victory in November and his inauguration in March. Tennessee would secede after his inauguration on June 8th of 1861. Okay, so here comes this brand new country. All right, so in February of 1861, the 7 seceded southern states formed a new country called the Confederate States of America. Again, you'll see it shortened down to the CSA or the Confederacy. Okay. Now, the Confederate States depended heavily on agriculture, which depended heavily on slave labor. Okay, so this is where a lot of the cotton is coming from. This is where a lot of slaves are. Cash crops were necessary for their economy. One of the big ones is cotton. Okay, one of the big ones is cotton. Southerners feared that Lincoln would end slavery and destroy the Southern way of life. That is kind of their reasoning for seceding from the Union and creating their own country. Now, a total of 11 states seceded from the Union, okay, but 4 slave states chose not to leave the Union, okay? Those are the red and blue here: Delaware, Maryland, Kentucky, and Missouri. West Virginia will later on when they do become a state, okay? So here in the red is the Confederate States. Please don't think that they took a chainsaw and cut out all the land and pushed themselves out to sea. All of that land is still attached, okay? So going back to our questions here, all right, that we hit. So what was the election of 1860 like? Again, a lot of sectional turmoil. The North and South are split between these 4 candidates. All right, who were the candidates in the election of 1860? Abraham Lincoln, Stephen Douglas, John Breckinridge, and John Bell. What was each candidate's position on slavery in the election of 1860? Lincoln was fine with where it was, but didn't want it to spread west. Douglas was pro-slavery. All right. Breckinridge was also pro-slavery, and Bell was pointing to the Constitution. That was his entire platform. And how did the campaigns in the election of 1860 reflect sectional turmoil in the country? Again, we see that split. Okay. The North mainly voted for Lincoln. The South was voting for Bell and Breckinridge. That kind of splits that Democratic vote. Okay. And Abraham Lincoln is able to win. After he's elected, South Carolina secedes in December of 1860. Okay. So we'll get a little bit more into the Civil War, kind of the beginnings of the Civil War tomorrow. All right. But that is all I have for today. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, we will see y'all next time.